Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur's Ultimate Tax, where we uncover the true costs and threats to the entrepreneur's path to prosperity. Today, I have the pleasure of having Miss Jennifer Blankl on the call to talk about marriage and its impact on entrepreneurs' life, business, and their personal relationships as well. Jennifer helps hardworking professionals and couples to ignite connection, closeness, fun, and excitement in their committed love relationships, and marriages at home. She understands how many feel like they don't have the time, energy, or the desire, but still want to feel understood, appreciated, respected, and supported by their partner. Jennifer is professionally trained and certified as a relationship and marriage coach, life coach, strategic interventionist, and divorce preventionist. Jennifer works with her clients privately, as well as through group workshops and training, public speaking, and one on one engagements. Jennifer, welcome to the call.
Thank you, Keith, for having me. It's a super big honor to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ever since I saw your videos on Facebook, I was just fired up to get an opportunity to talk to you because as an entrepreneur who obviously is married but also has a, large group of clients that we work with that many are single or married or looking for relationships, I know how important it is for people to figure out the relationship side of their life and how tough and difficult it can be to find, not only the right person, but also the right person that knows how to support you and you know how to support them and know how to communicate to them and them know how to communicate to you. So thank
Right.
you for being on the call. I'm actually just really honored to have this opportunity.
I'm more honored. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump into the relationship side of work for entrepreneurs, can you tell us how you got started along this path into being a relationship and life coach?
Absolutely. So it began as a journey to be a life coach. I
Mm,
really was passionate in the very beginning of my career, helping different kinds of people with a broad array of just personal challenges,
mhm,
anything that was just kind of keeping them stuck from having or feeling or experiencing what they wanted. And then my own marriage tanked. My own marriage tanked. So, long story short, I got married to my wonderful husband in 2008,
mhm,
early 2008, right before the economy and the world fell apart.
mm,
My husband's business directly related to the financial world.
mhm,
So, it was a pretty big blow
mm,
to not only his financial stability and identity,
mhm,
but it really was a blow that affected his manness.
mm, mhm,
And so I back then failed to see what the heck was truly going on.
mhm,
And I wasn't, and mind you, this, we were newlyweds.
yeah,
And I was still in fantasy world as a new wife. I'm thinking,
mm,
I just got married. Married life is supposed to be easy and amazing and sparky and romantic. So we got married, had this wonderful wedding. This was back when we lived in LA, um, and then the economy
mm,
collapsed,
mhm,
and we were forced very quickly out of the honeymoon phase of our
mhm,
brand new marriage into
mhm,
coping with massive um, career and work identity
mm, mhm,
shifting and uprooting.
mm,
And it was hard. And so, to answer your question, I learned a lot of deep, hard personal lessons in how I responded to my husband.
mm,
I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the insights, I didn't know how to perceive him
mm,
in a way that I could be a supportive wife. And so I started going down a deeper journey in my coaching. And that's when I got further educated and trained and certified on the relationship side, on the marriage education side, on the divorce prevention side, even though I'm not against divorce, just so
mhm,
everyone knows.
mhm,
Not every relationship needs to last forever. I became passionate about relationships and marriage because of my own health. And I'm with the same husband, fortunately, because
Mhm.
uh, my training and then my development as a coach, which continues on to this day, is basically what allowed me to step up in a different way and
Mm.
not only save myself, but save my marriage.
Mm.
So that's why I'm passionate about the relationship side, and especially, working with busy entrepreneurs and business owners. It's
Mhm.
hard.
Mhm. Yeah, it really is.
Marriage is beautiful, relationships are beautiful, but it's a lot
Yeah.
when you got a big career, when you're a hustling entrepreneur.
Mhm.
There's a lot to manage,
Mhm.
a lot to balance.
Yeah. It can definitely be a beautiful disaster.
Right? One of my favorite 311 songs. That's right.
So can before we jump into a little bit of what that honeymoon phase was like, how long you were in that honeymoon phase, and then also what you think you really needed to be able to show up the right way, I want to back up a little bit to figure out where were you before you decided you were going to pursue life coaching, and why did life coaching come across as something that you thought you wanted to pursue to begin with?
I love that question. Are you asking me, Keith, where I was professionally or where I was
Yeah.
personally? Professionally?
Yeah, personally and professionally, like, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So I started training to be a coach when my first son was one.
Yeah.
So uh, we're looking at, close to 13 years ago.
Hmm.
Where I was before was I was a special education teacher back in LA.
Hmm.
And before that, I have an extensive sales career.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I loved being in sales because of the relationship building. And I
Yeah.
realize that's so crystal clear now.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, yeah, my career now is so quite different from my former self. Yet
Hmm.
at the same time, I realize why I love sales so much. It
Hmm.
really was about the building the trust, gaining the
Yeah.
trust,
Yeah.
getting somebody to buy
Hmm.
into
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that was what I did before. And then
What were you selling, by the
I always,
way?
I sold, my first job was selling newspaper ads for the Santa Barbara News Press. Then I
Hmm.
sold Clear Channel Radio for
Okay.
many years. Then I
Yeah.
sold Cumulus Radio. And then the IT bubble happened up in
Hmm.
Santa Barbara,
Yeah.
back in, what was that, 2000, 2001.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
got lured into the IT sales world, barely knew what
Yeah.
I was doing, but
Hmm.
sold the crap out of IT networking services.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lots of having to hustle
Yeah.
in the form of relationship building.
Yeah.
And I always loved, I definitely had points where I was burnt out, but
Yeah.
I did enjoy being in sales for the point of the relationship work.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
couldn't get the sale if you didn't have the relationship.
Hmm. So why life coach? Like, why do you go like why
Yeah.
from Clear Channel and these? You're a closer. I mean, you have to be a really good closer to do those types of jobs, advertising, marketing, and those types of services. So why the shift? Why the pivot from sales, driver, hunter, hustler to something that requires a little more soft skills, I would say, in terms of like really working with people. Not that sales isn't that, but generally those aren't always the same energy.
Yeah. I love your questions. They're so good. And thank you, because it makes me think too.
Hmm.
Um, I always had it in my heart and head that I would be some form of a family counselor.
Mm.
I thought and considered seriously for a while the path of marriage and family therapy.
Yeah.
Going to school before I got married, in addition to having my hustling sales jobs,
Hmm.
seemed daunting.
Hmm.
Then I met my husband,
Hmm.
who this is a great question because now I get to tell another little tidbit, which I
Hmm.
think is very relevant here. So, to answer your question, getting married to my husband gave me a extra layer of stability
Mm-hmm.
and an added sense of confidence to go out there and do exactly what I wanted to do. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that he not only had my back and said, if this is what you want to do, go do it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That allowed me to put aside my fears and insecurities around money
Mm-hmm.
and income stability. And I have an instilled sense of, I definitely have and still do. It's transformed over the years,
Mm-hmm.
but I do find stability and predictability in income.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and I'm making that point because having the support and the backing of a partner. In this case, it was a life partner. I'm married now, so
Mm-hmm.
I can rely on this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what my thought process was.
Mm-hmm.
Allowed me to say, okay, I can quit. I can quit the job I don't like.
Yeah.
That's totally stable. That pays me a lot, and I
Mm-hmm.
can go actually finally pursue this dream. And at the same time, funny enough, somebody introduced me to a life coach.
Mm.
They said, Jen, you need to meet this life coach. And I didn't even know what a life coach was.
Yeah.
And it was the way this woman lit up and started talking about she's a life coach. She helps brand new moms adapt to new life as a
Yeah.
mom with a baby.
Yeah.
I thought, what is this? And so I literally sped my way home, um, got online, went down all these life coaching rabbit holes,
Hmm.
educated myself on what it is, what my options are,
Hmm.
found the right program for myself. And it's one of the best decisions I ever made, not only for
Wow.
my career, but
Yeah.
it changed me and it reshaped my own marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. That is wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that backstory.
for asking.
Yeah, certainly. You said that you're in a honeymoon phase for a period of time. How long was that period of time? Was it
The
three
honeymoon
months,
phase,
6 months? Yeah.
way too short. So we
Yeah.
married in March of 2008.
Okay.
Went on a honeymoon right after, came
Mm-hmm.
back. I think it was September or October that everything crashed.
Yeah.
So we literally had a 5 to 6 month
Yeah.
period,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it just got real.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to be the coach or the life coach or the marriage coach for Jennifer during that period of time, what would you have told her?
Oh my gosh. That big question, Keith. I would have told her, woman up. I
Mm.
would have told her
What does that
to
mean?
just stop making it about yourself.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Stop reacting from your own crap.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, assuming you know what the other person is experiencing or thinking you know what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't make it about yourself.
Mm.
If I'm being
Yeah.
totally honest.
Yeah. How do you do that though when you're in a crisis? Right? Because when you're in a crisis,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
things
right.
things come out of you when you squeeze the orange, juice comes out, right? And so when you're in crisis, how do you not make it about yourself when the fight or flight and all those things are like bubbling up inside of you and you only know how to do this? Like for example, like for me, so in 2017 I quit a job with no money in my bank account and no retirement to cash out because I decided I want to be an entrepreneur. And so I was in crisis. I needed to be able to pay bills. I needed to be able to support my family. And I was in crisis mode. So my crisis mode is grind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, 15, 15-hour days. It's working nonstop, either working in the business or on the business or doing stuff that I had no business doing, like building websites and all kinds of things that I'm not gifted in. But for the person that's in crisis who's responding from a selfish standpoint, thinking about themselves, even if they don't know it, they're thinking about themselves. How do they recalibrate when they're in crisis?
This is where I believe the word work really
Yeah.
comes from.
Yeah.
I don't like, even in my own practice
Mm-hmm.
over the years, I've really transformed how I use the word work with the stuff that we're supposed to do to make our marriage better.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where work is, because
Mm-hmm.
just like you beautifully touched on, when we are in crisis mode, we humanly go into a certain mode,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of which is natural and slightly out of our control. And the
Mm-hmm.
stuff I'm talking about is our physiology and
Mm-hmm.
the the chemicals, the stress hormones, all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's stuff that naturally goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I will say we do have a lot of power to manage that and shift that. But we got
Yeah.
to acknowledge it's not easy. And I think that that's important, because the moment we forget that it's hard, we lose sight of the fact that we actually got to make
Mm-hmm.
some really good effort here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but to answer your question, there's all sorts of concepts, and it's tough for me sometimes because I'm really about personalization in my work. So sometimes I want to answer questions like this, but I get all hairy and over analytical in my brain trying to,
It's okay.
give the perfect answer for the right person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Understanding that you've got a natural emotional response,
Mm-hmm.
and that carries meaning, that carries a message.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sometimes we trip on the fact that we're upset,
Mm-hmm.
or we feel like our head is blowing off.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can take the pause, which is where the work really comes in,
Yeah.
taking that darn pause,
Yeah.
if we can pause and really look at what is going on inside of us
Mm-hmm.
and define it kind of in a way where, if you can think about stepping outside of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
even as a tool, like a psychological tool, stepping outside of yourself, looking back at yourself and the
Mm-hmm.
emotions that you're feeling and saying, okay, what are these feelings? Why am I feeling this? What's the source?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's because we care. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, I want to say 99.99% of the time, our intent is pretty solid and positive.
Mm-hmm.
We care.
Yeah.
We feel responsible. We feel obligated. We've got other
Mm-hmm.
people depending on us.
Yeah.
We're tired. We're already stretched
Mm-hmm.
thin. Like
Mm-hmm.
we've got good reason
Mm-hmm.
to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, if we didn't care, if we were just neutral and just lethargic, we wouldn't have these emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's human to forget that sometimes these wilder, this is a great reminder for me, sometimes our wilder emotions that other people might, even our
Yeah.
partners look at and be like,
Yeah.
whoa, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
That oftentimes, at least in my experience, that's a pretty direct reflection of an intense work ethic
Mm-hmm.
or a value system
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at play, and I think that when we can look at it from that lens, like, okay, you know, what needs aren't getting met, what values are
Mm-hmm.
getting trampled on here, what's getting
Mm-hmm.
hijacked, that's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm freaking out. Because when we
Mm-hmm.
focus on the emotions without why those emotions are at play, that's when just we get more triggered, and then we piss off
Mm-hmm.
our partner, and then our partner further triggers us, and you know how it goes.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. What do you think the best way to pause and unpack is? Because what it sounds like you're recommending is for someone to take a step back and say, "Whoa, I have these emotions. I'm triggered. I'm pissed. I'm upset. I'm ready to, you know, throw the TV out, on the street or something." And what you're saying, it sounds like, is to recognize, "Yep, I'm triggered. I'm pissed. I'm upset. Let me go and figure out why specifically, what is it within me that got hurt, touched in a way that I don't appreciate, that I'm really trying to communicate, that's not getting through." What do you think the best way for somebody to really, like, is it getting a journal and, going there with themselves and really writing down their feelings? Or what do you recommend for someone when they're in that place that maybe you were in 2008 when the market crashed and things aren't going the way that you anticipate? You didn't want to leave the honeymoon phase yet.
Our emotional state is everything.
Yeah.
It dictates every single thing we're doing in
Mm-hmm.
work, in our personal lives. So it's a powerful question that you're asking. Being aware that when you're hijacked emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
you're likely going to hijack your result. It's the human way. We
Mm-hmm.
can't help it. So like hijacked emotional state most likely equals hijacked results. What I love as a tool is the actual picture in your head of a thermometer with the red mercury representing your sticky, unwanted, downward spiraling emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And if that red, if your thermometer has got more red in it than clear,
Mm-hmm.
you're hijacked.
Yeah.
Okay. And however, whatever level you need to make that red for yourself to know, okay, this is, maybe it's a quarter way, you know,
Yeah.
not that I think about it, maybe halfway is too much, but the concept of asking yourself, am I hijacked?
Yeah.
Am I hijacked? Am I not hijacked? Can I carry on? If you're
Mm-hmm.
hijacked, the best thing to do is leave the scene, take care of
Yeah.
yourself. This is
Yeah.
different for people. Some people put on their running shoes and go run.
Yeah.
Some people need to do breathing
Yeah.
and, love those kind of more, self-centered exercises.
Yeah.
Some people need to call their mom or a best friend and gab away for an hour on the phone.
Yeah.
Some people need to comfort their dog. It's all different. And so it's great when we can actually spend a little time and attention to what that list of things is for ourselves.
Yeah. Like ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody like, what did you say to me? I'm out of here. I'm going to make.
We go get ice cream.
I'm going to get some ice cream. Sit in my
Right.
car for an hour.
That's right. And I'm not getting you any of
Cool
those.
down. Right.
I mean, it is amazing when we can leave a scene because we know we're hijacked
Yeah.
and go change our emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know that gives us a better result. But the key is you can't just leave. You got to say when you're going to come back. A lot of people forget
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So leave the scene and be loving about it. Hey, I'm hijacked. That's actually the
Yeah.
words I use with my own husband.
Really. Okay.
Oh my God, husband, I'm totally hijacked. I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically my language.
Yeah. Okay.
But whatever your language is, just announce it. I'm hijacked. I
Mm-hmm.
got to go, but I will be back. We can talk about this in a couple hours. We can,
Yeah.
we can talk about this tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever time you need, but it's important to leave your partner or whoever that other person is. It's a great strategy for any relationship context.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to say when you'll be back.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's great.
Yeah, pleasure.
So for newlyweds, is there a roadmap or a framework that they should think about their honeymoon phase, and also set proper expectations as they're moving into marriage, whether that
Mhm.
be a premarital situation? I don't know if you do premarital conversations to help people set the framework for how they're, the first year, setting a vision for the first year or
Yes.
18 months with contingency plans based on what could happen, because obviously we're still maybe in the middle of a pandemic. We don't know, but I can imagine there's lots of people who have had pandemic marriages. And, even now there's still things happening where companies are closing or laying people off for various reasons or not bringing people back. What do you think a proper framework for new relationships that are getting started and potentially being newlyweds now, but also maybe even those marriages that are, they're 20 years in, and this might be an opportunity for them to set a new framework for how they're going to communicate and set expectations for the next 12 to 18 months?
Two impeccable concepts that I personally am attached to, which is what transformed me, which
Mm-hmm.
is what transformed my own marriage, which is what I have helped countless clients use and apply to transform their own situations, is human needs
Mm-hmm.
and your love languages.
Mm-hmm.
If you can start there, there's so many layers under those two concepts that you're going to get a world of detail
Mm-hmm.
that you might take years or even decades to get without that. If I knew this knowledge
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I got married, I would have had a whole different early marriage experience.
Mm-hmm.
I could have saved myself and my partner a lot of pain and grief and suffering,
Mm-hmm.
really. Um, So when I'm talking about the needs, it's natural and scientifically proven
Yeah.
that we've all got a similar neurological makeup as humans. So we've
Mm-hmm.
got these six universal needs we've got to meet,
Mm-hmm.
but then we're unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's the same.
Yeah.
There's only one of each of us, and
Yeah.
so that one of each of us has a very unique blueprint on, what needs do you value most? What
Mm-hmm.
needs are you subconsciously pursuing
Mm-hmm.
every second of your day without you even realizing it?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, when we realize that stuff, it can be a really big perspective
Yeah.
shift, game changer.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel really passionate about this because this is what I was able to grasp onto and change my own stuff, but I could have saved a lot of time
Mm.
if I knew it earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
people that can grasp this early on,
Mm-hmm.
but even like I love how you said it, decades in, been married for 50 years, you
Yeah.
can still grasp onto these concepts and learn a whole new world,
Yeah.
about yourselves and each other. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
What are those needs that you're referring to?
Yeah. So the six universal human needs are love and connection, and these are in
Mm-hmm.
no particular order.
Yeah.
Love and connection, significance,
Mm-hmm.
certainty,
Mm-hmm.
and then the opposite of that is uncertainty and our need for variety. And then our two spiritual needs, growth and contribution. And if you go to my website, you
Yeah.
can read more about the needs and you can also take the test
Okay.
and it'll give you your hierarchy. It'll give you your
Yeah.
score. And then it
Okay.
comes with this analysis that a lot of people get some really juicy ahas from.
Mm-hmm.
And they
Mm-hmm.
start seeing some, that's why I have this habit.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I have this belief system that's jacking me up.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. So just my name, jenniferblankl.com. There's
Mm-hmm.
a tab at the top that says learn your top two needs.
Okay. I'll make sure that we add that to the show notes. One
Sweet.
one of the things that I really love about that is it really requires a person to really not only understand what their needs are, but how they manifest. So a person who might be wired for certainty might really need or really seek out a 401k plan because to them that's what certainty represents. But
Right.
for another person who's very much so wired for certainty, they might say, there's no way I'm ever going to work for another company ever again because I'm not getting fired ever again.
Killer
Right.
example.
Or I,
Spot on.
right.
Spot on.
And so I know that there's plenty of our listeners who are entrepreneurs and their significant other work for a company. And sometimes those things can collide.
Absolutely.
What would you recommend to a couple that is in that spot? And also, not only do they collide, but they could have an impact on both parties really being able to make a good decision as it relates to how they pursue what it means for them to experience the certainty that they're after.
Again, this is where the work comes in.
Yeah.
This doesn't just happen to the lucky people.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, this takes conscious
Hmm.
pause. This takes a desire and an intention
Mm-hmm.
to want to make positive change.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, remembering that we are different human beings.
Yeah.
And if you're in a heterosexual love relationship, now you're talking about opposite genders.
Mm-hmm.
So different humans, different human blueprints, different genders, different role models, different
Yeah.
parent examples,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
different childhood experiences. I mean, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know my
Yeah.
point. The list is
Mm-hmm.
endless.
Yeah.
So, but we so humanly forget. I mean, I just forgot the other night when I, yelled at my husband over something we weren't agreeing on. Our human way is to
Yeah.
get triggered when we really are after, you know, being aligned with or making our spouse believe our point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But we fare so much better and we actually get way more information, which for me personally, leads to deeper fulfillment
Mm-hmm.
when we can do the in between work.
Yeah.
meaning, you're after the same end result. So don't get stuck in the easy trap of emotions that
Yeah.
exist between the facts and the end result.
Mm-hmm.
The facts being you're opening a 401k, or you're
Yeah.
not, or you're quitting that job that sucks your soul but pays you really well. That's
Yeah.
a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, maybe that is subjective, the second one. But anyway,
Yeah.
my point is,
Depending on who's listening,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly. But my point is that there's a world of makeup, and I'm not talking about the makeup ladies wear like
Yeah.
or anybody, men wear makeup too.
We
Makeup
trying, yeah.
meaning the narratives, the stuff we make up in our head, the
Yeah.
way we are defining
Mm-hmm.
what's happening
Yeah.
is really where the work comes in. That's where we get, because that's where we get most tripped up. We
Mm-hmm.
get tripped up by our narrative or what we're believing is going on, when in fact we haven't done the real work to dive in and have the actual conversations,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the communication is, to get the details that you need
Mm-hmm.
to understand.
I put a question out to a few people yesterday on what questions they would have for Miss Jennifer Blankl.
Awesome.
And one of the questions that a really good friend of mine asked was, how do you go from the boardroom to the bedroom? You have two entrepreneurs that, we see it where we have clients who have, they both have their own business, but in this case, this might be a husband and wife who both own a family business and they're working together, and they have roles at work, then they have roles at home. And they have
Absolutely.
communication at work, but they have communication at home. How do
Right.
you how do you maintain the connection, the closeness, the intimacy that you need to have when perhaps at work there's turmoil and problems and things that haven't been resolved on the work front?
So many people struggle with this. I think if you're married, I think if you're in a long-term committed love relationship
Yeah.
and you've got a job that's demanding your hustleage, if that's a
Yeah.
word.
It is now.
Yeah, right. Then
Coin that.
this is hard, or it's not hard. It just requires work,
Yeah.
um, and a heck of a lot of consciousness.
Mm.
So managing your roles in a playful way
Mm-hmm.
that brings light and even humor
Mm-hmm.
to your intentional transitioning between work mode and home life mode
Mm-hmm.
is key. I am not going to mislead anybody listening and say that this is easy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I see most clients meeting a grouping of strategies to really nail this down.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of unique for every case, but to give some, general proven strategies, the conscious effort of calling out what role you're in,
Mm-hmm.
as cheesy and funny as that sounds,
Mm-hmm.
can be a real game changer.
Mm-hmm.
This works great in married homes with no kids,
Mm-hmm.
and it works great with kids, because when you can enlist your family to hold you accountable, and you're also modeling for them the importance of work-life balance and transitioning
Mm-hmm.
and becoming present
Yeah.
wherever you're supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
you're now gaining multiple layers of benefit,
Mm-hmm.
So I have watched countless clients play this out in so many different ways, and it tickles me pink when I get the positive feedback of, oh, this works, or, our kids say this, or, just the stories that come out from the success from being able to have this playful tool. And now you can kind of, in a more loving, gentle way, help each other make that transition, because, it can be very tough to do this on your own as a very
Mm-hmm.
busy entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
or business owner or just career person in general.
Yeah.
If you got a hustling mindset and you have a just, high work ethic, don't want to leave your client's email hanging on too long, don't want to miss
Mm-hmm.
that call, those are the people that struggle the most,
Mm-hmm.
with making that transition. Being able to hone in on everybody's positive intent.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is not easy, but trust me, it will become natural over time if you do it. Instead of getting upset at, for example, instead of getting upset at the husband that's always on the phone
Yeah.
and saying, "Why are you always on your phone? Get off your phone."
Yeah.
Go deeper and start expressing what you do want to
Mm.
come out of your connection at home.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of people that are complaining about cell phones at the dinner table,
Yeah.
cell phones on the couch when they're trying to actually connect with their partner, but they're checked out. That can lead to just conflict. As soon as your partner feels criticized, it's just not going to go well for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, practicing the art of talking about what you do want, what positive results do you want to have happen from being able to transition successfully between work and home life.
Yeah.
It's never going to go perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way, I just I don't believe that reality works like that. But a conscious effort to do your best
Yeah.
and still love yourself and give yourself grace is where it's at. But yeah, consciously transitioning and doing whatever, it's cute. I've got I attract boss ladies.
Do you?
So I
Okay.
attract really strong, super driven women who
Mm-hmm.
love their husbands, but they unintentionally are hijacking their situation at home because they're bringing home their boss mode and
Mm-hmm.
they think they're taking care of stuff at home too, but
Yeah.
their guy is like, wow, she's bossing me around. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my female clients love to just the act of changing,
Mm-hmm.
wearing a certain kind of outfit,
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
even going and getting a new set of
Mm-hmm.
outfits that really help feel like, maybe an outfit that helps a woman feel kind of sexy and feminine
Mm-hmm.
after a really hardcore
Yeah.
day where she's got to be in her masculine mode.
Yeah.
Of
Like
course, I'm
Daisy
kind of
Dukes.
focusing on women here in this example, but
Should I buy my wife a pair of Daisy Dukes that she can wear around the house when
that's
she gets home?
right.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. And I'll wear a I'll wear a Carhartt jacket and some underwear, I guess, around the house.
I love my husband in Carhartt pants, by the way. There's something about Carhartts.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but yeah, but to our fun point here, there's a world. There's a
Yeah.
world underneath every couple that
Mm-hmm.
has unique details about, how you can playfully transition and hold yourselves accountable for being present. And even if that means, some people they can't check out. They can't come home at 5 o'clock and fully check out. That's just not possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm even thinking of the doctor that's on call
Yeah.
24/7,
Yeah. Right.
So, do your best to create those connection rituals where you can truly check out. And if that's the husband and dad that's got 30 minutes a day,
Yeah.
that can only set the timer to make sure that he doesn't spend more than 30 minutes, but he can still be present.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, set timers, schedule out little slices if that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
Little slices will still make a big difference.
I love that. What do you believe is the most common blind spot for female entrepreneurs, and what's the most common one for male entrepreneurs?
Ooh, there's a lot. There's a lot of them. So my mind and heart are clamoring to figure out what's the top one. For women, it would be. I'm just going to say it. I think it's the same. It's not understanding the differences. And if we're talking about men and women, and we're talking about especially heterosexual relationships, the gender differences are the biggest hijacker. Women connect with other women in a certain way.
Yeah.
For example, we interrupt the hell out of each other, but now we're listening and engaging and we're all interested in each other. Men, if you show up at a bar and watch men talk, they're not doing that,
Yeah.
because to interrupt another man is rude.
Mm-hmm.
It's just straight up disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of many very key common differences that hijack couples multiple times a day without them even realizing, oh my God, what just happened? I've pissed off my person.
Yeah.
What did I even say or do? And, oftentimes, a strong kick-ass career woman comes home and she's got great intention because maybe she's still in work mode. She's like, okay, well, now we get this vacuuming done, get these chores finished.
Right.
So she starts barking orders, why didn't you get the chores done? And now her husband, feels emasculated. To answer a question for men, it would be the same. Not understanding what women need. Men being their awesome, driven selves can oftentimes humanly confuse the fact that all the stuff they do, all the things they hustle for and contribute and sacrifice for the wife and kids, or the partner, is enough. I hear this a lot. It's a common theme, especially through COVID. The guy's like, what else does she want from me? I'm slaving away over here. She barely works, blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, women, at the end of the day, will, in general speak, always need more emotional connection. And again, I'm using a broad brush here. Don't mean to put anybody in boxes. But there is I call it somewhat of its own epidemic. There is a deep misunderstanding, between men and women, and our differences, I believe, and now I'm getting into different territory, but I believe our differences are beautiful. And when we can learn and get better about understanding what these differences are, we can nurture them instead of using them in ways that blow us up and tear us apart when we're not even meaning to.
Yeah.
Which is really, you know how it is when you're like, what? I didn't even mean to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And I'm learning a lot. I had no idea that women were totally fine with their friend interrupting them and like jumping in and cutting them off, because I have felt as like, oh my gosh, that's so rude. Why would you just do, like, what did you just do? And then I'm offended, and I'm like, but they're not offended. I'm just there watching it all go down, and I'm offended all by myself.
Right.
Watching two women go at it and have a conversation, so.
Right. And, I love your point there, because, it's not something that's black and white, right? So depending on context. So for example, me, I'm quite masculine. Like, I like to think, I'm feminine, like, but I can get really deep in my own feminine masculine mode, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
And if I'm out to wine and dinner with my girlfriends and we're just gabbing about nonsense and we're overlapping, that's going to feel like engagement. But say I'm in a meeting with other female executives and we're talking, sharing stuff from a professional context, and I get interrupted, I will say that I would feel disrespected. And so I think, because in one moment I'm in masculine mode, even as a female, full-blown female over here, versus being in my more feminine mode when I'm not working, when I've totally relaxed and let go and I'm out with my friends. So I love that. I think that's an important distinction,
Yeah.
Oh.
Why do you think you gravitated towards working with entrepreneurs?
I love entrepreneurs. I respect the hustler mentality. I respect people that have a drive to be a certain something or attain a certain something or achieve a certain something, and they just go after it. They work through, whatever blocks initially hold them back from going after it. And I admire that immensely. I was raised to not take risks. I was raised to take a government job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be an entrepreneur. So
Mm.
with all due respect to my wonderful parents, I am grateful that I adopted the opposite.
Mm.
And I think that's why I feel a little intense about it,
Mm.
because I worked hard to myself to overcome my own limiting mindsets that
Mhm.
prevented me from going after what I do now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't go after my dream until 33.
Thank you so much for sharing
Thank
that, and thank you
you.
for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I'd love to do a 2.0 to talk more about just many of the questions that I'm sure are going to come out of just this episode alone. As we wrap up, what's the best way for listeners to connect with you and hear more about your story, and maybe even take this needs test that you so eloquently put out there for us on your website? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Awesome. Thank you. And Keith, thanks again for having me.
Yeah.
I love you, and it's just an
Yeah.
honor to be here. And we always have the best, richest, very meaningful conversations,
Yeah.
which I always just really appreciate. So thanks for having
Yeah.
me on.
Yeah.
To answer your question, you can get a hold of me. You can email me at jen@jenniferblankl.com. Don't be shy about just hitting me up directly.
Yeah.
If you want to check me out more online, my website is jenniferblankl.com.
Yep.
And it is blank with an L on the end,
Okay.
just one vowel there. And I do encourage you to take the 6 Human Needs Test. If you
Yeah.
click the tab at the top of my homepage, it says learn your top 2 needs, and it'll give you a more detailed synopsis of what the needs are, what they mean. And then, like I said, you'll take the test, you'll get your results, and you'll also get an analysis that I do believe will shed some light on some things that would be interesting for you.
I recommended 100%. If you just heard what Jennifer recommended in terms of the 6 human needs, I took this test several years ago, and it really helped me figure out how I operate, why I do the things that I do, why I get triggered in terms of just all of the decisions in terms of how I operate. It helped me understand so much about who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And how I show up in my relationship. And I highly recommend anyone that's listening to definitely go ahead and go over to Jennifer's website and take the test. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Look forward to communicating and talking again and having you on it again in the future.
Thank you so much, Keith. Thanks again for having me, and I'll look forward to that 2.0.
Yep, you got it. Awesome. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.